Good evening, and thank you for joining Capital Region Water for a virtual question and answer session. We look forward to presenting on the topic of our customer assistance program and answering your related questions. I want to cover a few housekeeping items before we get started. To enhance sound quality and reduce feedback, please ensure that your microphone is muted. We will provide ample time for your questions, and please hold those until the end of our presentation. I will welcome you at that time to please unmute your mic and speak, and then we ask that you mute your microphone when you are finished speaking. I'll also read aloud any questions that we received today through the email that we posted along with this meeting invite. Please keep questions brief to ensure time to answer as many questions as possible. And Capital Region Water cannot discuss account specifics. So if questions require specific account details, please contact our customer service center during regular business hours at 888-510-0606. Questions can also be asked by typing your question into the chat feature. Just a reminder that everyone participating in this meeting has access to the chat feature, and therefore your question will be visible to all attendees. If you are having difficulty hearing the meeting, simply turn up the volume on your device. For a better view of the presentation, find a pick a layout option in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. This session is being recorded and will be posted on Capital Region's website at capitalregionwater.com. So Capital Region Water is set to resume service terminations for delinquent accounts in April. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, terminations due to delinquency were suspended to lessen the burden on customers facing job losses or other hardship brought on by the economic slowdown. To address a growing rate of delinquency, Capital Region Water will be reinstating service terminations for past due accounts. Customers are encouraged to contact Capital Region Water to discuss their account, make payment arrangements on past due balances, and to apply for credit assistance, which is similar to LIHEAP, if you're familiar with that program. It is our goal to keep customers connected since we know that water service is essential. It's an essential service that's important to our community's public health. During our presentation, we will describe the actions that our board has taken to ensure that our customers have this essential service during the pandemic. We will also explain why it is time for us to return to our normal operations, including termination of service for non-payment on past due balances. We believe that the longer we allow customers to grow their past due balance on their accounts, it will be only that much more difficult to dig their way out of the hole. We have expanded our customer service program to help customers in that situation, and our staff will explain that program in detail tonight and how you can avail yourselves of that program. Next slide, please. So tonight we're going to have Doug Keith, our Chief Financial Officer, talk about the financial update for Capital Region Water and why we feel that we need to return to the normal operations, including service terminations. Michelle Bethel Miller, our Director of Shared Services, will talk about our bill pay options. And Tanya Dieroff, our Director of Strategic Initiatives, will talk about the Customer Assistance Program. And then we'll allow for some Q&A at the end of the session. Next slide. So just a little bit of background on the timeline. When the pandemic started back in March and Dauphin County went into a stay-at-home order, we closed the Customer Service Center to walk-in traffic. We wanted to ensure that both our staff were safe at the beginning of the pandemic, as well as our customers. And water termination and late payment charges were suspended. Previous terminations were also restored upon request because, as I said, we know that water service is essential to ensuring public health. In April, the Board of Directors ratified a resolution to voluntarily comply with the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission emergency order prohibiting service terminations. I want to reiterate that although Capital Region Water is not subject to regulation by the Public Utility Commission, we voluntarily complied with that order. In June, we also decided to take the order to delay the stormwater fee, so that knowing that our customers may be facing financial hardship during the ongoing pandemic. In July, CRW enhanced the customer assistance program to include credit assistance, which we'll talk a little bit more later during the presentation. And we also modified the winter shutoff moratorium. The board passed a resolution partially rescinding the reinstatement of penalties on late payments that were effective back in July on the July bills. And then in November, we adopted a budget and kept the rates at a level where we felt that our customers could afford, because we took into account the financial impacts of the ongoing pandemic. Also in November, the PUC modified their emergency order, lifting the moratorium on service terminations while expanding the protections for low-income customers. And we'll talk about how we did a similar program with our credit assistance program. In February, our board repealed the service terminations on delinquent accounts, so that reinstated service terminations that would go into effect with the March billing as of March 15th. Accounts are now subject to delinquency notices and subject to termination. Our customers have been urged through various forms of communication to contact CRW to discuss payment plans and to apply for credit assistance. With that, I'll turn it over to Doug Keith to talk about the financial impact of the ongoing pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. Good evening, everyone. I want to start by saying that I know nobody likes to hear from the finance guy. For good reason, we really have good stories to tell. However, as my primary role as CFO is to ensure the financial stability of Capital Region Water, for better or worse, I need to report on how we're doing. And last year, we didn't do very well. So I want to share with you some of the challenges we're having as a result of the COVID pandemic. While the financial needs of the authority are only one facet in our decision-making process, it's an important one considering the critical nature of our services and infrastructure needs. So when I do make recommendations, they're based strictly on putting CRW in the best financial position possible to pay our bills and advance our projects. Call it an occupational hazard, if you will. So with that disclaimer, I'd like to start with a little background information. The first thing you should know is that CRW receives no funding for operations outside of the rates and fees we charge. We are eligible from time to time for federal or state competitive grants for specific projects, but the dollars are few and the needs are tremendous. So simply put, we don't get much funding from grants. It's also important to understand that we do not make profits. As a government entity, we can't. This makes us different from some of the other water utilities in the area, such as Suez and Pennsylvania American. We have no stocks, no shareholders, and our board are unpaid volunteers. So as a result, 100% of our rate and miscellaneous charges can go to fund our expenses. But more importantly, we rely on the receipt of that money to pay the bills. Billing residents and businesses means nothing if we can't collect the money. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Can we advance the slide, please? So it's a little hard to read, but the table you see shows how COVID has impacted our business from a revenue standpoint, or in other words, what we bill for services. In the budget column, the second group of numbers over there, you'll see that we anticipated a need for $52 million in 2020 to fund our operating and administrative expenses last year, as well as provide funding to repay loans and pay for new projects. That sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but Harrisburg has a very old system of pipes for water, wastewater, and stormwater that need to be replaced to ensure when you turn on a faucet or flush a toilet, you get the expected outcome. So we spend tens of millions of dollars every year on our plants, pipes, and pump stations, in addition to actually paying for treatment. As such, we set our rates to match that need, but we came up short, as you can see, to budget last year by over $4 million. That's a big hit for Capital Region Water and was a direct result of business disruptions that reduced water consumption throughout our service area and our board's response to the pandemic that Charlotte just highlighted. Next slide, please. Of course, less water does result in some lower costs, and project spending was lower than expected as our contractors scaled back and reassessed their ability to work through the pandemic. That said, the reduced operating expenses were not at the level of lost revenues, and much of the reduced spending were merely delays. And when projects are delayed, they typically end up costing more down the road. So despite the losses of 2020, the board and staff were determined to try and keep rates as low as possible. So you saw no changes in stormwater rates and only small incremental increases to water and wastewater. Unfortunately, continued losses will make it impossible for us to be as conservative in our rates going forward. So on the previous slide, I had emphasized that we actually need to collect the money we charge to our customers. The moratorium on water service terminations and the closing of our customer service made that even more difficult than normal over the past year. And as a result, our past due balances grew by over $1 million since last March. The graph on the next slide, if you can flip it, shows how our outstanding balances have grown over the past year from just over $7 million to $8.2 million in January. We certainly anticipated that reducing our collection efforts would result in higher past due balances, but we couldn't have predicted how much that balance would grow, nor the length of time we would be in the pandemic. Remember that every dollar we don't collect is a dollar we can't spend on infrastructure problems that we can't ignore. So this additional $1 million, if we don't collect it, will end up reflected in future rate increases, which ultimately hurt all of our customers. Next slide, please. I just want to reemphasize here the decisive and timely actions that the board took in response to the pandemic. Every one of the actions that you see on this slide was designed to help struggling residents and businesses, but they did come at a cost to Capital Region Water. Utilities across the country took similar actions, and all of us have been trying to figure out the right time to try to return to normal operations. The PUC actually ruled last November that utilities that operate under their rules could resume terminations. And as Charlotte pointed out, we don't follow PUC guidelines, but we do often look at them to evaluate our own decisions. And at that time, CRW decided it was too early to resume our normal collection efforts. Next slide, please. So in wrapping this up, there's no perfect time to resume all of our collection activity, and there will always be individuals and businesses struggling at any given time. I've identified on this last slide some of the factors taken under consideration. Of course, I've listed financial considerations first, but as I said earlier, that's not the only thing where it's only one facet in the decisions. We have programs available for people struggling financially, but they need to contact us, and that hasn't been happening during the moratorium, which leads to larger and larger balances that could easily become unmanageable if not addressed. The state is relaxing business restrictions, and unemployment at the national, state, and local levels are all returning to pre-COVID levels. We're not there yet, but we've come a long way from where we were. I've identified on this graph some of the key moments where the board took action, and you can see that they've been very timely in all of their actions. There's no question that the city of Harrisburg unemployment rate is higher than what this graph is showing, and but it does stand to reason that the trend towards pre-COVID rates would hold true in Harrisburg, just like it's doing locally, nationally, and statewide. Despite this, we do know that people are struggling, and we do have programs that can help, but we need you to reach out. We can't help if we don't know. And with that, I'm going to turn the rest of the presentation over to those with better story to tell, starting with our Director of Shared Services, Michelle Bethel-Miller, who will lay out all the options available for bill payment while our customer service center remains closed.
Thank you, Doug. Good evening. As Doug said, I am Michelle Bethel-Miller, and I'm the Director of Shared Services. And the Customer Service Center is one of the areas I have the privilege of leading. As Doug just said, the Customer Service Center has been closed to customers due to COVID-19. Now, while we're not currently taking payments in person, there are several contactless bill pay options that I will be going over this evening. So the first option is the automatic bill pay option, and that is when you as a customer will sign up to pay your monthly bill automatically with your bank account for no fee. All you need to do is fill out a form authorizing these withdrawals, and we'll take it from there. You'll still get a monthly invoice so you can keep track and be informed of your water usage. The enrollment form can be found on our website, which is capitalregionwater.com/pay-your-bill, and that's on the slide as well. You can also contact the Customer Service Center by calling 888-510-0606. The next option would be pay by phone. And that again is paying by phone, calling our customer service center at 888-510-0606. We accept Visa, MasterCard, and Discover cards, and there is no fee for that service as well. We do encourage you to have your bill ready because you will need your customer account number. You'll listen to the prompts and follow the directions. This is a secured option for paying your bill. You would not deal with a customer service rep. This is all done through interaction with you in the phone system. A third option would be pay by mail. So the traditional send your check or money order, making it payable to Capital Region Water. We do want you to remember to include the bottom of your bill, the coupon portion, because that helps to expedite processing. So that's something we always like to remind our customers that are paying by mail is to don't forget the coupon. A fourth option is pay by Dropbox. Now, our Dropbox is available for those that would like to pay by check or money order and bringing those payments to 100 Pine Drive. But we do encourage you not to leave cash, and the box is marked. Please do not leave cash in that box. The box is accessible during CRW working hours, which are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And a final option, contactless bill pay option, is pay by Moneygram. Capital Region Water has partnered with Moneygram to provide convenient payment locations for those customers that would like to utilize cash. You can make your payment at any participating Moneygram location, and Capital Region Water will receive your payment. These sites include locations such as local convenience stores, as well as your CVS pharmacies. And you would simply take your bill, because you're going to need your account information and the money necessary to pay the bill, to a participating location that's convenient to you. Now, there is a $1.50 fee associated with Moneygram. However, Capital Region Water is temporarily reimbursing customers that use Moneygram that $1.50 transaction fee as long as our customer service center is closed. So since you would not be able to bring your cash into us, and if you still would like to use cash by going to Moneygram, we will be absorbing that fee temporarily. Next slide. Now this slide is showing our Moneygram location. So if you visit our website, you will find a link to this map when you select the option Pay Your Bill and scroll down under the heading that says Pay with Moneygram. On this slide, you'll see blue circles or boxes which represent various Moneygram locations within the city. Next slide, please. Depending on the browser that you use on your computer, you will either hover over top of or click on the box, and you will see this information that's displayed on the slide. And what it is showing is the name, the address, and the phone number for that particular location. If you click on the line that says more info, when you do that, you would be directed to the Moneygram website for additional details such as their store hours, and you would also be given directions if you needed them to get to that site. Next slide. Now, for those customers that may prefer a more streamlined approach for obtaining this information without all the bells and whistles of the interactive map that we just showed you, coming soon to our website, you will get another option, and that's this list of Moneygram locations. The listing shows the various locations within our service area, and these are in Harrisburg City. That's the listing that we're showing right there. So for your convenience, we'll have the interactive map, and then for those of you again who like the streamlined version, you'll have the list made available to you. And with that, I will conclude my presentation and turn it over to Tanya.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm Tanya Duroff. I have the pleasure of serving as Capital Region Water's Director of Strategic Initiatives, and I'll walk us through the Customer Assistance Program this evening. And while I get to do that, I will say that I don't think there's a department at Capital Region Water that has not contributed to this larger Customer Assistance Program. I will provide an overview of the program and its various components. And for those of you that know me, know that I tend to talk too much. So if you have one takeaway from my portion of the presentation, it is really to contact us. It is our goal to keep customers connected, and we have various assistance options available. Next slide. So not unlike many communities across the United States, aging infrastructure and deferred maintenance have exacerbated Capital Region Water's need for significant financial investment to ensure that safe and reliable stormwater, wastewater, and drinking water services are continually provided to our customers. As rates increase to reflect the true cost of service, affordability challenges also increase. We acknowledge the specifics of our community here in Harrisburg and also in the neighboring municipalities that we serve. The median household income in Harrisburg is less than $40,000, with more than 30% of our residents earning less than $25,000. According to the American Community Survey conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau, approximately 30% of households receive some level of supplemental assistance. And we assume that those same households would likely be eligible for assistance from Capital Region Water. Capital Region Water serves about 15,000 customer connections in the city of Harrisburg, as well as customers in Lower Paxton, Pembroke Borough, and Susquehanna townships, for a total of more than 18,000 residential connections. So if we follow some of the data via the American Community Survey, the census data, we estimate that somewhere around 5,500 residential household incomes fall below the federal poverty level. So I think it goes without saying, but we certainly know that the need is here in Harrisburg. Next slide, please. So what does the program look like? There are 7 different components that comprise our customer assistance program, and I'll talk through each of these individually. With the exception of one, each of these options was really designed to support our residential customers, our residential rate payers. And the first one is payment plan agreements. These are mutually agreed upon payment plans designed to help that customer that may be having a hard time keeping up with their monthly bill. And again, this is a mutually agreed upon schedule that permits a customer to make systematic scheduled partial payments. It allows a customer to pay down on an account balance while avoiding any further collection activity or interruption of service. A down payment is generally required to establish a payment plan. However, if a customer receives credit assistance, which I'll talk more about momentarily, that credit can be applied toward a down payment. There is also guidance provided regarding the time allowed for a payment plan in relation to the account balance. So for example, if a customer has an account balance between $200 and $500, generally 6 months is provided to pay that balance, and that changes based on the past due balance and with more time being allotted. Special circumstances may require the review and approval of a manager. So if you are calling into customer service, that customer service representative may just need to consult some others at Capital Region Water if there's a special request being made. The second program component is leak adjustments. CRW does recognize that a situation could happen from time to time that is no fault of the customer, but could lead to high or elevated usage and in return a high bill. So an unexpected pipe break, for example, something that is really not the fault of the ratepayer if keeping up with reasonable diligence. CRW will consider a billing adjustment on an account if a situation arises that would otherwise, not be detected. So leak adjustments cover no more than 2 consecutive months of metered consumption, and only one is granted every 2 years per property. There is an application, and that must just be submitted for Capital Region Water's review. Both the details of the payment plan agreements and the leak adjustments can be found in Capital Region Water's drinking water rules and regulations. The third program component is the use of emergency medical condition confirmations. And this is just that Capital Region Water is mindful to accept these from a physician. These emergency medical conditions provide a period of up to 30 days in which Capital Region Water cannot terminate water service in the event an occupant of that home is certified by a physician to be seriously ill or affected with a medical condition that could somehow be worsened without the availability of water. So Capital Region Water obviously accepts these, and this does provide an important window of time in which a payment agreement could then be established with customer service. Next slide, please. So a few more program components. Number 4 is our winter shutoff moratorium. Capital Region Water suspends water terminations between December 1st and March 31st for low-income residential customers. These are customers that are also eligible for credit assistance and have a household income at or below 150% of the federal poverty level. We also extend the same moratorium to any residential customer, regardless of income, if they rely on steam heat. We just ask that a simple form be submitted. It's a 1-page form, and then we can provide this benefit. We'll just tag that account to ensure that that benefit is provided. And it's really our intent with this to ensure uninterrupted service during some of the coldest times of the year. Our next program component, tapping fee relief. This is the program component that is not specific to our residential customers. So I don't know that we have any developers on the phone tonight, but it may be of interest to others as well. We do provide a tapping fee credit of 50% on residential developments in which a minimum of 50% of those units are designed for low-income housing. A tapping fee credit will also be applied on redeveloped properties, provided that water or wastewater service to that property was active within the last 5 years. This availability, the tapping fee relief option, does require a little bit of internal coordination with Capital Region Water. So it isn't as simple as a form, but we do encourage you to reach out, and we'll make sure that coordination does happen if we're aware of somebody pursuing low-income housing. And then number 6, this is the newest component to our customer assistance program, service line and lateral assistance. Drinking water service lines and sewer laterals. These are and I'll ask advance to the next slide, because I think a diagram will really help to make some sense of this. The drinking water service lines and wastewater laterals are the pipelines that carry clean drinking water into your home and wastewater away from your home. These are buried underground. We typically don't give them too much attention. They are connected directly to Capital Region Water's distribution and collection mains. What customers may not always know is that these are the responsibility of the homeowner. Repairing and replacing these lines and laterals can be costly, and often when a repair is needed, it is an emergency situation, which only exacerbates that cost. The best means of protection of these service lines is really through your homeowner's insurance. We really do encourage customers to reach out and have a conversation with their homeowner provider and explore a service line coverage endorsement. That's probably the best means to ensure that you are covered in the event of a situation that requires repair or replacement. That said, Capital Region Water again acknowledges the associated Capital Region Water acknowledges the associated expense. So late last year, our board did pass another assistance component to help absorb the cost associated with the portion of the drinking water service line or wastewater lateral in the street. This is often the most expensive portion as well, because it requires a great deal of utility coordination and some of the excavation in the roadway. As you can imagine, that can be quite costly. So this portion is typically able to be discerned based on where your curb stop or shutoff valve is, which is typically near your sidewalk. So Capital Region Water will assume those costs from that point of demarcation to our distribution main or collection main. The customer is responsible for obtaining an associated plumber's quote and completing an application, and then we'll work with you through that process as well. We understand this often prompts a lot of questions, but this new assistance option is available. We're working through our first application right now. Next slide. And then finally, our last piece is the credit assistance piece. This provides annual assistance to our low-income residential customers at or below 150% of the federal poverty level. And we provide up to a $200 credit on your account. So that's $100 towards your drinking water charges and $100 for your wastewater charges. We do have some customers in nearby municipalities that may only receive drinking water service from Capital Region Water, so they may only be eligible for a $100 credit. This also requires an application. It's a one-page application. And if you are eligible for other assistance programs, you are very likely eligible for this. So if you are eligible for LIHEAP, SNAP, rent rebate, or UGI or PPL's assistance programs, we just ask for proof of that eligibility. We accept that. We don't need to review your financial information, and we will then apply this credit. So long as you keep that eligibility documentation current, Capital Region Water will apply this credit to your account each year. Next slide, please. And this graph, this chart really just indicates what the income eligibility limits are based on household size. Next slide. And this is the request form. Like I said, it's a one-page form. We just ask that you provide some contact information and account details to us. We ask that you check the box on what other assistance you qualify for and attach that corresponding proof of eligibility, the award letter or the program confirmation. You sign this and you get this into us. If for some reason you don't have that initial award letter or program confirmation, we understand things get lost. Do contact us if you think you are eligible, and we'll work through that process as well. I know we've accepted some other means through PP&L, for example, if that program confirmation letter cannot be provided. Next slide. And then the last thing I really just wanted to mention is a general reminder that saving water saves money. Ironically enough, this week is Fix a Leak Week. So if you've been following Capital Region Water on social media, you may have seen some of the water saving tips we have been putting out there this week. So just some general reminders here to review your monthly usage. If you suspect really high usage, we use here generally greater than 12,000 gallons in a cold month, you may have a serious leak within your home. We also encourage you to get to know your water meter. I've made the joke before that if you can't sleep during the night, this is a great time to go downstairs in that spooky part of your basement, find that water meter, take a reading. You know, there's typically nobody using water in your house at that time. Wait a little bit of time. If that meter changes without obvious water usage, you could have a leak. Toilets are a very common place of leaks. We advise a quick trick to put a little food coloring in the back of your toilet. If you start to see that in your bowl, you could have a leaking toilet, an old flapper that needs to be replaced. Just make sure you flush that so you're not staining your toilet bowl. And we also encourage you to examine your faucets and your gaskets, your pipe fittings, to see if there's any obvious surface leaks around them. So again, I went through a lot of information. We really do encourage you to contact us. This same information is available on our website. Our customer service representatives can also review this if you call our 888 number. And if you're inspired right now to go to our website, click on forms and fill something out, you can submit that immediately to cap@capitalregionwater.com. We did set up a specific customer assistance program email address to try to process some of those applications more timely. So with all of that said, thank you, and I'm going to turn things back over to Charlotte.
Thank you, Tanya. So I will open it up to questions since we did not receive any emails prior to the presentation. So please unmute yourself if you have a question, and we will try and answer your question.
Hi, this is Rhonda. I just had a question about CRW's participation in the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. We've had some discussions about that, and I don't think there was much clarity about CRW's coordination with the county as far as people who want to pay their water bill with the ERAP funds.
So I am not familiar with much about that program. Tanya, Michelle, Doug, I'm not sure if you are.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
So Rhonda, is there someone that we can talk to specifically at the county to learn more about that?
Yeah, I think Randy Yeager and April, I can't remember April's last name. But when we've been, there are certain nonprofits that are going to be assisting with processing the applications. And so we've been in meetings several times about the ERAP program. And every time we've been in a meeting with Randy, CRW has come up as, you know, they kind of mentioned that if someone wants to pay off their outstanding balance and they are going through the process of ERAP, that you will, I guess, wait for the application to be processed, which could take, you know, several weeks, of course. So, but if CRW really, you know, doesn't know anything about that program at this point, I guess I can take it that, you know, there may not be that kind of coordination between the Emergency Rental Assistance Program and CRW.
I should add here, thank you, Rhonda. When we did see the county's announcement regarding that funding, we did reach out, and I was connected specifically to Randy. So we've started that coordination. I can't necessarily speak to a process, but we have started that coordination. So we are aware of it, and we do expect requests to come to verify, you know, customer bills, for example, or other such things, as customers start to make those applications to the county and use that funding for utility relief.
So you'll take that process into consideration if they're in a termination, you know, position.
That's a good point.
The timing of it.
Yeah, we definitely should discuss that internally and ensure that, you know, if somebody is in that application process, that we should not be terminating them and maybe discussing those cases directly with the county.
And Rhonda, you mentioned that, is there a standing meeting that is taking place where you're discussing the process? Because we would be happy to participate to see how we can make sure that it's moving forward and that we're not, of course, delaying anyone getting disbursement of funds just because we're not aware. So if you could forward that information, we would be happy to join that discussion.
Okay, I think it's with CASH, the Coalition Against Homelessness or something in the community. I think they had the weekly meetings, and Randy Yeager has been participating in those meetings. So I'll ask Mike Weisberg, who coordinates those weekly meetings, to have CRW representation at them.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Who should I send I guess I should have a contact. Would that be Stephen or you, Tanya?
If you get it to Steve or I, will make sure it gets to the right folks internally. Thank you, Rhonda.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? All right. Well, if there are none, you can certainly submit more questions to us either through this email that Tanya has posted here. I don't know if we're going to keep the info at capitalregionwater.com, or we're going to keep that active as well. Yeah, so questions can be submitted at any time to info@capitalregionwater.com. If you want to discuss specific account questions, you can contact customer service at 888-510-0606 during our normal business hours, which is 8 to 4:30. And if you leave a message, we'll ensure that someone gets back to you as quickly as possible. And as Tanya stated, applications and inquiries can be submitted to capap@capitalregionwater.com. And thanks to Tanya, Doug, and Michelle for all the informative information that they provided. And thank you to everyone who attended tonight.
Charlotte?
Yes.
This is Claude. I'd like to thank Capital Region for reaching out to the public and making this information available to them. Okay, it's a shame that more people and more of the public didn't join in with this, but thank you. Okay, speaking for as an ambassador, you know, you guys are knocking out of the park. You're going above and beyond. We can't expect, you know, we have to understand that. And so thank you.
Thank you. We'll make sure that the community ambassadors get the link for the recording, and, you know, please share it widely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claude.
One other question. Is there a date certain for the terminations to begin? You just say April. Is that like April 1 or?
Actually, the earliest that we would be going out to terminate, I believe, would be April 13th, and it may actually be a day or two beyond that. So we have to go through the process of notification, and you know, first they have to get into the past due status on the March bills, and then we go through the normal our normal notifications.
Oh, okay. So just so that we would know, because we would be getting a whole lot of phone calls. Once people start getting, the process is that they would get notified in their bill. There's a lot of tenants that had to pay the water bill that may not see that, you know, that they're late or whatever. You put the notice on doors starting when?
Wendy, can you jump in here and answer that question? I'm not 100% sure when the notices are going to go out.
Hi, Rhonda. How are you?
Okay, Wendy.
Good. Right now, this schedule is slated to have the first 10-day shut-off notice sent out to customers and posted to their doors on Monday, March 29th. As Doug has already mentioned, we are maybe on a slight delay, but that would be the earliest the first notice would hit the street.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. If there are no more questions.
May I ask a question?
Oh, sure. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just unmuted. This is Loretta Barbie Day from Summit Terrace, and I don't know if you can divulge this information or not, or you may have already done it. I got here late. Approximately how many people is this affecting, or right now, or with the possibility of affecting between now and April?
That's an excellent question, Loretta. The way we do this is not a process whereby we're going to be going out and in one day terminating service on everybody that's past due. There's only a certain number of people that we can do in any given time. So it's really a long drawn out process. I would say that we can probably get to 50 to 100 of them on a weekly basis. Wendy, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong there. But the outstanding receivable balance, the number of customers is extremely large. I mean, we're talking about 7,000 accounts that are past due. Yeah, this has been a growing problem, and this is something, as I had explained, we do have to run a business, and we do have to make sure that we're collecting. We will not shut off nearly that many people, because a lot of people will, once they get this message out, they'll come in and pay their bills. The problem right now is that there hasn't really been that drive to motivate people to pay their bills while we're in a moratorium. So people have been looking at other things that they need to do, and they may have been holding off on making payments on the water side. So, we're hoping to reverse that. We really want to get people in to talk to us. We don't want to shut anybody off because that hurts our revenue. If water is shut off, people aren't using water, and we're not getting our revenues that we need. So our goal is not to shut people off. It's to get them into us so that we can talk to them and try and figure out what we need to do to get them current again.
Absolutely. So now earlier when I came in and Tanya was showing the one slide, she said that there's only 15,000 CRW services here in Harrisburg, not counting what's outside, other municipalities that you may be serving, but you only have 15,000 customers in Harrisburg?
15,000 accounts. I mean, if you include the people that are living in the houses, obviously it's much larger than that. And when you get to when you include our outside sources, I think we're up over 20,000.
That's right. And I was only covering residential connections as well.
On the 15,000, that was residential. I just thought it was kind of low because I thought we had a larger housing stock than that in Harrisburg. And since we have to use you for water, you would think you'd have 25,000 at least participating of your services. So I'm just a little confused on why the numbers don't jive in my brain.
Yeah, and as well, Loretta, there are multifamily units, multifamily buildings that may be on 1 meter. So that does not account for multiple units in a single building as well.
Wow. And
I have one more question about timing. So when you're going, to potentially shut off, terminate the service, are you looking at the highest balances first or the oldest balances first? The longest delinquencies or the highest amounts?
We generally are looking at the highest amounts, and when we try and do it in areas, because it's a lot easier for the guys that are actually going in and terminating services to impact an area rather than hitting one on one side of the city and then having to drive over to the other side and then back and forth. So we're looking at the highest balances, and then we're going to particular regions and impacting them. So that's basically how we do that. And we get that 48-hour notice posted on their doors prior to anybody going out and actually terminating service.
So we should possibly be looking at certain areas of the city with, people that are having the notices posted to their door, like South Allison Hill, will start coming in as a wave calling, what do I do? And
it's possible, yeah.
Uptown. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, we want to be as efficient as possible with the crews that are going out and doing the terminations. As Doug said, we don't want them, running all over the city. We want to concentrate in a certain area, but, we will try and base those areas on the highest, the ones with the highest past due balance. All right. Any other questions? Again, thank you for attending, and please send us if anything comes to mind later on, or if any of our customers contact you, Rhonda, please send them our way, or give them our contact information and have them send us an email or give us a call. We appreciate your questions and for helping us get the word out with the recording later on.